I'm Michelle.
I'm Chris.
And I'm SP from the Starling Tribune,
a podcast member of the Geek Network.
Just like the show you're listening to now.
The opinions expressed are those of each individual host.
Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeek.com.
And get ready because geekiness begins in
3,
2,
1.
Talk hard and enjoy the mindgasm. The intellectual podcast starts now.
I didn't expect that, Winnie, to say pumpkin spice lattes and have you call me basic bitch. So that's fun.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Intellectual Podcast. I'm David Dawson.
I'm Whitney Wegman.
And we don't have any guests for you today.
No, we don't.
It's just the two of us.
Yeah, just hanging out.
It's intellectual twosome.
Yeah.
Before we get into everything, we just want to say a shout out for one of our sister programs on the Geek Network. We want to bring your attention to Game Life Balance Australia. You know, it's been a good year for video games.
It has been.
Spider-Man was amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've played it yet. And most recently, Red Dead Redemption 2 has come out. And that
one looks really cool.
And Game Life Balance Australia says Red Dead Redemption 2 is out, and it's all that Rob can think about. But before the boys take a deep dive into discussing that hot new release, they need to discuss the Vectrex, their featured console for this episode. So slap on your colored overlay, let the gentle buzz of the speakers wash over you, and don't worry about the difference between vectors and pixels, because it's too hard to explain, and your lovable hosts are too dumb to grasp it anyway. That's Game Life Balance Australia at the Geek Network, and you can check them out at GameLifeBalanceAustralia.com. Make sure you check that out, and make sure you go to GonnaGeek.com and check out all of the amazing shows that are on our network.
They have a ton.
They have a ton. And we just launched the Gonna Geek Discord channel for all the gamer types and young types out there who like to chat on a gamer board. If you go to GonnaGeek.com/Discord, you can join our Discord and you can chat directly with us at the Intellectual Podcast and any of the Gonna Geek Network podcasts. There are channels for all of them on Discord there. And it's pretty cool. Like even my little nephews were like, "Whoa, you're on Discord!" Like all of a sudden they're following us on Discord. So,
yeah, I was gonna say at some point we should interview your nephews regarding what are the hot new games because they're younger than us, believe it or not, quite a bit.
You know, that's a really good idea, and we're coming up on Christmas shopping season. Yeah. So we used to on the show once upon a time, and on the sister show we used to do, which was the Sci-Fi Sunday podcast. We used to do a Christmas episode where we talked about things you could get, your friends, your coworkers, like whatever. I think that's a wonderful idea. And the kids have been asking to be on the show for a little while anyway. I just haven't had like the right angle.
Well, and I'm sure all the geek mom and dads out there would love the insight of, we know what's cool for us. And that's like, things from the 80s and 90s. And we're trying to make the kids like those things. But we should hear from actual children.
The kids do like the games from then, actually. It's really interesting.
Yeah. I like the games from them. It was funny whenever you were asking about it. It's like, no, I'm like old school. Pac-Man, Mario, maybe a little Sonic.
My 8-year-old nephew, Sean, he's been downloading emulators to his PC. And he's been playing like classic games from that era. And it's been fun. It's been fun to sing them on the TVs and stuff.
So up until my mid-20s, I had an original Nintendo system. And I went away to college and my mom got rid of it. I'm still upset about it, not gonna lie. I had like Duck Hunt and like all the Mario games and
I used
Pac-Man.
to love playing Duck Hunt.
Yeah. Duck Hunt, man. Have to blow in the cartridge whenever it froze up.
Was that your first game console?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
See, I'm old enough that I had like an Atari. Oh God, which model was it? I want to say 3600. But I mean, I had one of the earlier Atari models. I actually had Pong.
Really?
Yeah.
I've played it.
I am old enough to have gone back in the day where I remember enjoying moving two bars up and down the side of a screen with a little square dot bouncing between them and thinking, this is amazing.
Now, did Atari also have the Space Invaders one where you like moved it left to right to
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I didn't like playing it on my Atari. I preferred dropping the quarters because the console at the game shops had the ball, so you can spin and fly around to get all your stuff. Using a joystick on that game is just not quite the same.
See, now my big one as far as like shoving quarters, my aunt used to own a little diner restaurant, and they had a Tetris game. I sat there for hours. I got really good at Tetris. By the way, I can Tetris a fridge like nobody's business. Groceries, bam, bam, bam.
I attribute my ability to pack the gear in the back of a truck to my Tetris Tetris days. Yeah. But I liked playing 3D Tetris. Did you ever play 3D Tetris?
No.
It's where the pieces came down, like you were looking down a well, and the pieces came down like kind of past your field of vision, and they fit 3-dimensionally into
Trippy.
a squared well.
Which game system had that?
It was a computer deal. It was like a freeware version of software that somebody wrote.
It's cool.
It was cool.
Maybe if I had played that, I'd be better at some of the more modern games that are 3-dimensional. I run into walls. I love watching people who are good at it, though. Like, you can get a room full of people playing Silent Hill or Resident Evil, and like everybody's attentive because something's going to jump out and scare the crap out of you.
Well, my cousin Eric, he brought over his PlayStation VR for a couple of months here. And so for a while there, we'd be standing here in the living room, looking like dopes with the big headgear on, but like freaking out because things are scaring us in the virtual world. Pretty amazing, like what you can do at home now. It's just unbelievable. Some of those games are terrifying. Like you really get immersed in it and you forget where you're at. Like it's incredible.
Makes you start worrying about like, have you seen the Black Mirror episode where the game is just like that you literally just touch a button and it's completely immersive?
Yeah, that show, I love that show.
Yeah. I mean, it pulls from so many things that are, just inches out of our reality that it's like, yep, I can see it.
In the near enough future that you can see it being a reality. The one where you record everything you see and people have access to it. That episode like completely freaked me out.
What's creepy for me, like ever since
that episode also starred Jodie Whittaker, the new Doctor Who.
Oh yeah, it did. I didn't even occur to me that was her. That totally was her. But that same technology, I remember, I guess this has been quite a few years ago now, Robin Williams was in Final Cut, which was kind of the same idea, only you couldn't access it while you were alive. And I always thought, oh man, that'd be so cool. Like I would get a little recorder, mostly because, I like to cut together videos and things. And so, but, I don't know. My husband is always like, yeah, but you should just be present in the moment and experience it that way because, what you're experiencing versus what your memories tell you experienced are two different things because you have the input of the emotion you experienced at that time. And I'm like, yeah.
Your husband just doesn't want videos of him naked getting out into the world.
Yeah, right. That's probably it.
Speaking of Final Cut, Brian, my brother-in-law Brian, has been trying to get me to watch that movie forever.
Really?
Yeah, he's a huge fan of that film.
It's really. You've never seen it?
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's really good.
Like I know all about it.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it. I haven't had a chance to see it.
Yeah. Although it'll probably just make you sad because you'll think about Robin Williams. That makes me sad.
Yeah. But we did. But we watched his golf bit today.
Yeah,
and
that was great.
Doesn't make me sad. It makes me miss Robin Williams being part of the universe. But he left his legacy.
He did.
And you remember people through watching their films and stuff, and that's good.
That is true.
If we believe in the harmony of the universe, letting their song continue on is how we keep them alive, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to put the spotlight on you.
On me.
Whitney Wegman, the 2018 San Diego Film Awards Best Actress.
Yeah, that happened.
You made a pretty substantial decision for yourself in the last few weeks.
I did. Yeah, well, I made it probably a couple months ago, to be totally honest. But then I finally actually said it out loud to the world and technically
and took steps forward on it.
Yes. And technically the world being Facebook. I don't know. That's like the only platform to make big announcements if you feel like you need to make an announcement. Which I guess is good. You hold yourself more accountable whenever you say something out loud and tell people. So yeah, I have decided that I am going to full-time pursue my acting and performance career. And I went ahead and put in my letter of resignation to the college that I work at. And yeah, that is my goal going into 2019 is to survive as an actress full-time. And to that end, I've been, just trying to put my resume out there and put my information out there as much as possible, get some new representation in, the form of like a commercial agent and a manager and all those many people that you have to have on a team. There's a lot, actually.
Well, we've talked to a number of people on the show since you became my co-host. We've talked to many people on the show about who are successful working actors, but every one of them's like, you got to have a manager, you got to have an agent, you've got to have a commercial agent, you got to have a theatrical agent, like whatever. Like it is a team of people. You got to have a photographer to take good headshots of you. And, when you reach a certain level, you have to have a PR person, keeping track of all that. You literally are a business in and of yourself who has to employ people to run your business. So, but the first stage of that business is making the decision to start up and move out of, I don't want to say hobbyist mode, but move out of part-time mode, maybe, where it's kind of secondary to a regular job that gives you the stability and safety and whatever, but you're cutting the line and jumping clear into the seas.
Abyss.
And hoping that you find something to float with, right? I
mean, pretty much. I mean, you're dead on with that. Like, being an actor is like having your own small business. And if anyone out there has ever had a small business, you know that it's a 40-hour-a-week job minimum, probably more like 80 hours a week. And so, yeah, I mean, the challenge, of course, is like you have to still pay the bills. Everybody has to. And so I've had, my daytime jobs, my professor jobs, my teaching jobs all over the board. And going further back, my stint is like Starbucks barista, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, that's really hard because between your keeping afloat jobs and your small business of being an actor, that's, like 120 hours a week. I don't even know how many hours are in a week, but that takes up a lot of them, So yeah, hopefully I have to, so a friend of mine he saw my post and he sent me this little thing and I hope that it ends up being, coming to fruition. But in regards to my post, he said, things tend to happen when you make room for them. So hopefully he's right. I'm making room for my career to really take off and I'm putting a lot of energy into it. So.
Well, and you've already put a lot of groundwork into it. I mean, you've got a master's degree in acting. You've studied it. You've done stage. You've performed in short films. You've done a feature film or two now. What is it about this moment for you that pushed you over the edge to make the decision that now's the time to, throw caution to the wind and make this the full-time pursuit? I mean, you've obviously been moving towards this moment for a long time, but what is it about this particular moment that made it the right time for you to try it?
I don't know. I don't know that I don't know that it was any certain thing. I mean, I was just working on a feature film and it was kind of grueling because we were doing overnights and I was also teaching. And so I was exhausted, but every time I got on set, no matter how tired I was, I'd drink a little caffeine or a lot of caffeine and then just like go for it.
And this was the same time that we were doing the audio drama for San Diego HooCon. Yeah,
there was a lot of things happening in like a frame of 2 or 3 weeks. And I would get home, one, like just performing and being in the moment, I was having a blast, no matter what type of scene it was, having fun with my co-stars and, I did all my actor research and everything, but in the moment it was just that sort of like serendipitous, it all came easy. And I'm sure it came easy because I did the groundwork in the first place, but it didn't feel like work, I guess was the point. And it never really has. Like, I've always enjoyed acting, but I was like, well, why don't I get to do this all the time? I want to be doing this all the time. This doesn't feel like work. This is the kind of work that I'd like to do, the kind that doesn't feel like work. And to be able to say that whenever you're like absolutely exhausted between both, like, I didn't want to go home. Like, even though I was tired, it was like, 1 a.m, and I'm like, I have to get up at 6 tomorrow. If we could stay, I would have stayed and done that the rest of the night. So I don't know. I started thinking about, well, what's in my way of being able to do this all the time and enjoy myself like this? And it's like, well, having a daytime job, that really stifles what you're able to do. And I don't know, just over the course of those 2 weeks, this is going to sound like really weird and hippy-dippy out there, but I kept on having this nagging sense in the back of my head, like I was being told something. And as the weeks went on that we were working on this production, it kind of got louder, and it was literally just the word jump. Just do it, So that's what I'm going for. I'm jumping into the abyss.
Well, it's the reason I wanted to make sure we talked about it on the show is we've always put an emphasis on the Intellectual Podcast about talking to people at all stages in their career path. Mm-hmm. So we've talked to people who've had the successful career. We've talked to people who are in the midst of it. We've talked to people who've kind of been up and down and are dealing with kind of really big highs and then really low lows. But I think this is a unique opportunity that, since you're my co-host for one, but for two, you're also an actress that I deeply admire and respect.
Oh, thank you.
And here you are making that choice to pursue it full time. And in some ways, because of your involvement on the podcast, like, we're going to be able to check in with you periodically throughout this process and see how it's going. But I wanted to have kind of like the yardstick here where we go, this is when she took the leap. Like, this is the start of that moment. Because it'll be a fun kind of living document, I think, with you.
Let's hope so.
To see how the journey goes. Look, my belief is it doesn't matter. The end result doesn't matter. It's the journey that's important. And the fact that you're taking the journey and you're going to pursue it and you're going to do everything you can, that's the ultimate, like, good on you, great reward emotionally. Like, I think you'll feel good about it no matter how it turns out, because you're taking that chance and you're taking that leap. I'm a little bit older than you. I got into filmmaking a little bit late, partially because I was terrified to jump into this business when I was younger. I waited until the tools became a bit more affordable and things were a little more kind of digital in nature than the analog that it was when I started. But that meant I was like already pushing 30 before I started taking classes on filmmaking, right? And I didn't start making movies till I was into my 30s. And, I'm kind of an old dog, for where I'm at in my career. If I was at this point in my career pushing 30, if I had the talent I have now and the knowledge I have now at age 30, it would have been a very different career path for me. Well, mid 40s. I've waited a long time and I've been honing my craft, but sometimes I feel like maybe I'm a little bit old to be completely committing to that jump. Like, there's other things in my life I should probably do before the end, Yeah. And I don't know where to be for myself right now.
I guess that's the thing. But
inevitably,
right?
I always look back and I'm like, I wish I'd started this when I was 20. I wish I'd taken the leap a little bit sooner. I wish I'd not let all the doubts and stuff kind of creep in. And I admire anybody who takes the leap, and you're taking the leap. And I'm super, super proud of you for doing that.
Oh, thank you.
I've been, rah cheerleader about you for a while, So when you told me that this is what you wanted to do, I was like 100% on board. I'm like, yes, go for it. Absolutely.
That's the thing that I found. Like, everyone that I've talked to, family, other people in the industry, obviously my husband, everybody was like, yeah, do it. There was nobody that was like, oh, I'm not sure if this is a good idea. Everybody's like, yeah. Why? Well, we don't understand. Why are you having a hard time with this decision?
Well, I think it's and it's expectations, right? Like we grow up with certain expectations. They're put upon us in the things we watch on film. They're put upon us in the schooling that we're given. I mean, let's face it, most of the schooling we're given in America is not about being a big dreamer. It's about following the status quo and fitting in to kind of this quote unquote normal path of progression. And even when you start talking about, faith or, social norms, it's like, graduate high school, go to college, get married, have children, grow your career. And it's a progression that's very linear and it's very kind of like laid out for you. And what we do in this business, especially, is so not structured. And I think it's hard even for us who have the heart for it sometimes to admit that we're not going to live a life that follows that standard progression that kind of we've been raised to expect that we're supposed to do as well. And it works for a lot of people. Like, I'm not saying that it's a bad life for the people who choose to follow that progression and live their life that way, but I'm not wired that way, but I've always struggled with that. And it held me back early on, being able to kind of admit that I should be beyond that kind of expectation for myself and follow the things that I want to do, including taking a year off just so I could go learn to sail.
That's awesome.
I just ended everything and spent a year learning to sail. It was one of the best years of my life.
I bet.
And in everything that I've done in my life, and I look back now at middle age, I look back now, and my happiest memories are the times where I took leaps that were completely out of normal life and sent me on these journeys and these paths that were unexpected, unplanned, and totally awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I've always found in my life, like the points where I just get either so frustrated or, yeah, it's usually frustrated that I'm like, fine, I don't know what I'm doing. Clearly there's a plan at foot here. Somebody else drive. I usually fall into things that are super unexpected. That's kind of what happened with me getting into graduate school. Just all through my life, like whenever I've done that, I've thrown my hands up in the air and just gone with the flow. I found the best things happen, and not in the way that I expected them to. Yeah.
This podcast is completely unexpected. Like this was never on my radar. But in the end, it's done some amazing things, just because like one day I decided I'm going to take the leap.
Yeah.
Somebody's doing something I like and I think I can do it too. And I jumped at it and here we are, I think this is the 228th episode.
Wow. Yeah, and we've got to meet some, even just in the time I've been working with you, we've met some really interesting people and traveled quite a bit.
Yeah. Done some red carpets. And,
yeah.
And you weren't around during the Nerd HQ days when we got to do Nerd HQ down at Comic-Con.
No, I was not.
Got to experience a lot of that stuff too. That was incredible. But now we're moving into a new phase where we're going to be doing panels and
yeah.
Maybe this Readers Theater thing on a more regular basis.
That was so much fun.
It was so much fun, and we definitely need to pursue that. I don't want to let that drop. I know I've not been like big on talking about it since we finished the WhoCon thing, but I've been working.
What is our audience up to date on what we're talking about?
Yeah. Both of our WhoCon podcasts have gone out already. I've talked about the experience. So
great.
But yeah, that was fun. And that again too was one of those things where I just kind of threw it into the universe. I'm like, I want to do this. And then I get a phone call from the organizers at San Diego WhoCon. They're like, hey, you guys want to do something here?
Yeah. And it was a blast. And what's crazy is like, well, I don't know if this is a consequence of this, but maybe it's just because it was like universally out there. I haven't really done that much voiceover work, so that was like one of the few voiceover things. And I just got done doing a voiceover audition with David's assistance. So who knows? Maybe that's yet another avenue that, because it's out there and because we've been talking about it, it's like, okay, this is the kind of work you're going to suddenly get. It's weird how that happens.
Yeah. Well, and on my own side, like, you can hear me playing the voice of Yoda right now at StarWars.com in one of the Star Wars Fan Film Award films. So Star Wars: The Toys Awaken, go to StarWars.com, go to the Fan Film Awards. Star Wars: The Toys Awaken is playing on the Fan Film Awards audience choice right now. I'm Yoda. Please go vote for my film. It's amazing. It's like mixture live action and stop motion animation.
Now, can you say "Go vote you will" in Yoda speak?
Go vote you will.
Awesome. So you haven't actually gotten to talk about that a whole lot on this show.
No, because I was supposed to keep it secret.
Yeah, it was all hush hush, but now that it's out, how did you get involved in doing that?
Well, again, this is one of those things where once you start putting yourself out there, you start making connections with people, right? So we were nominated for a San Diego Film Award for Best Writing in 2015. That was the second year of the San Diego Film Awards. And Brian and I went to the show and we thought, oh, this is cool. It could be better. And so I volunteered to start helping out with the Film Awards. And I've been, one of the producers and active members of producing the San Diego Film Awards ever since. The graphics work for that show is done by a gentleman named Raymond Montemayor here in San Diego, who is a very talented graphic artist. And a couple years ago, he made a Star Wars fan film called Star Wars Toy Stories. And I loved it. It was incredibly cool. It was a combination of Toy Story and Star Wars, like all blended together, and it's stop motion toy animation mixed with live action.
That had to take him so long.
And it's incredible, the work that he's done on it, and it's been very well received in the Comic-Con community and the Star Wars community. And he made a second one called Star Wars Toy Stories Rogue One, that one won a whole bunch of awards, like all over the world.
That's awesome.
And because of my involvement in the Film Awards, I've been working with Ray for the last 4 years on the Film Awards graphics and stuff. And we've kind of gotten a nice rapport. And he's actually hired me once or twice for some corporate work to do voice work for him. Because I'm also the voice of the San Diego Film Awards. So, he heard me for a couple of years going, and the nominees are, and so he hired me a couple of times, and I was like, hey, when next time you go do a Star Wars movie, like, I'd love to audition for a part. So flash forward to this past summer, we're at Comic-Con, and we didn't do much coverage at Comic-Con this year as the Intellectuals. We just kind of did our own thing this year, which was kind of a new thing for me. But at one point, Mike Peterson and I were wandering around, and we ran into Ray, and he was like coming out of some shop. He had like bags and bags of Star Wars toys and stuff. But he has a table, and he has a signing table at Comic-Con last couple of years. I'm hoping I get to go to one this year. But I ran into him, and I was like, hey, how you doing? He's like, oh, hey, he's like, I'm making another Star Wars movie. I'm like, that's amazing. Like, oh my God, can I audition? Like, is there a part that I could play? And he's like, actually, how's your Yoda? And I said, which Yoda? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, Yoda of Empire is very different from Yoda of the prequels, who's very different from the Yoda of Clone Wars, the cartoons, and who's also a little bit different from the Yoda that ends up appearing even in Rebels. Like, there are variations on the delivery of Yoda, like, what Yoda are you looking for? And
I assume probably different voiceover artists for those different variations.
Yes, the cartoons are different. The films are still Frank Oz. But, so he's like, oh, yeah, no. He's like, I'll send you something. you can record it and I can hear how it sounds. And I was like, great, so a couple days later, he sent me a little script. He's like, hey, record some of this and see how it is. I'm like, great. So I sent that back to him. He's like, yeah, it's perfect. I'm going to send you the full script. It's like 17 lines. It's not a huge part. But it's the first time in his Star Wars films that Yoda appears. So it was like a big secret. So I recorded my stuff alone. I didn't record with any of the rest of the cast. And I had to stay mum about it all summer. So I actually recorded back in August. And the film finally premiered last week, like on Friday, on Star Wars' fan film page. So
the rest of the cast was surprised?
Well, they knew that Yoda was appearing. I don't know that they knew it was me. So I got a couple messages from people like, "Oh my God, I didn't realize it was you." But it's been cool. It's been fun to keep it secret.
How was that recording without anyone to be like your partner to react off of?
Well, it was very interesting too because I didn't get the script. I got my lines.
Oh.
And then Ray gave me direction by referencing scenes in the Star Wars films with Yoda, and said, this version of Yoda. That so he took what I talked to him about at Comic-Con to heart, and he kind of went back and picked scenes from various films so that I had the inspiration of the inflections that I should be using, kind of the tonality. And so I recorded it all, and I sent him a couple variations for every line. So he could kind of pick and choose between slightly different performances. And then I actually got a note back from him like a week or two later. He's like, hey, you're right. You totally nailed this particular Yoda sound. And I was wrong. That wasn't the one that I needed. So there's like this one line he picked Yoda talking to the younglings in Attack of the Clones, I think it was. Or maybe it was Revenge of the Sith. He's talking to a room full of younglings. And Yoda in that instance is very, he's higher pitched and he's softer and, he's giggly, but not in the kind of mischievous way that he is in Empire. It's just like youthful Yoda. He's with the children and he kind of taps into his youth. And he's like, it's a little too, he's like, it's pitch perfect. He's like, now that I see it and hear it, he's like, you totally nailed it. But I need it more like this one. And he sent me another scene to look at. I was like, oh, okay. So I made an adjustment and sent that off, and he's super happy with it. So, I mean, that's how we worked, is like, these are references to the deal, but I had no idea what lines led into what or whatever. So,
and now that you've listened to it, are you surprised at like where they came in, or was it kind of what you were anticipating?
I don't know what I was anticipating, because I didn't even know what Yoda they were using for my character. Like I have, the 13-inch tall Yoda maquette, motion animated doll over here. I've had various Yoda like Beanie Baby type dolls. Like I just had no idea which version of Yoda would show up on screen, because it's one of the fun things Ray does is he doesn't use like one line of the toys for the toys. So like Han Solo in Star Wars The Toys Awaken is the Lego Han Solo, but the old version Han from The Force Awakens, right? And Chewbacca is like a giant knitted stuffed toy. So they're completely scaled opposite.
Yeah, scale is different across the board.
And so Lego Han is flying the Lego Millennium Falcon, and like all the rest of the toys are riding on top of it because they can't fit inside the Falcon, So it's fun because he plays with the fact that, children have whatever toy they get. They don't necessarily get like the whole specific lineup of a certain type of toy. They get whatever, is a gift on Christmas, or a gift for their birthday, or, whatever. And so it's fun because they're all mixed up. So I had no idea what Yoda would show up. And Ray actually sent me a little test piece of footage about a month ago. It was like 2 seconds. And it was the bit where I say, Yoda, you seek Yoda, right? and it's a floating beanbag head Yoda. right? Like there's no body. It's just Yoda's face on a beanbag with green ears, you know? And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Because it's totally unexpected. It's not at all the Yoda I expected him to be. But his face is fully animated, unlike a lot of the other toys, which are, you know, action figures.
It's a beanbag and they squish
It's
it.
a beanbag. No, he actually like animated like the lines of Yoda's face on the beanbag.
Oh, wow.
So I actually have a fully animated face in the piece. I'm like the only character that has, I think it's me and Lego Han have like fully animated faces. And all the rest, for the most part, are you hear their voices and their heads bob up and down. They're action figures, you know, but there's not a lot of animation on them. They move, but their facial features don't change, you know. So it's kind of cool. I'm like,
Yeah,
hey,
that
my
is
Yoda
cool.
like actually is talking. He's got no body. He just floats around, which is kind of neat too.
Just a head.
But no, it was fun because, you know, as a director, I've been on that side of it where I keep everything secret and contained to a few people who get to know what exactly is happening with the construction of the film. And then boom, I get to release it to everybody. I get to enjoy being on that side of it where I see everybody's first reaction. So it was very interesting to be on the other side of that with this one, where I only knew that I had these like specific lines and no idea how it was going to look, how it was going to fit in, you know, nothing. So it was a very, very interesting experience. I enjoyed it immensely. But because I put myself out there a couple years ago to do the Film Awards, because I believe in the Film Awards for San Diego filmmakers, and the things that it encourages us all to do as a community, but it's because I put myself out there and became a committed, active member of this community that this opportunity came up, you know? And so that's kind of neat. So it's a small little thing where I've jumped out there and I've kind of made things happen. But, you know, a little childhood dream of mine just like got fulfilled this week.
Yeah.
People can go to StarWars.com and hear me be Yoda. Like that's, I still can't quite like get over it.
Well, I mean, just think how many like childhood nerd dreams have been accomplished this year. You got to be on a panel at Comic-Con.
I was on a panel at Comic-Con.
We got to do all sorts of stuff at WhoCon, like just checking them off the list.
Yeah. It's been a good year. It's been a good year. And I actually worked on my first documentary series this year and got to travel the country doing interviews and stuff. And, you know, that was pretty incredible. That was a paid gig. It was like 6 months of work, which, you know, as a filmmaker, that's the dream too, right? Like to have a big series to land and consistently work for months. Like,
I mean, I think this year has been kind of like a when it rains, it pours sort of situation for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause then the summer was like dead. It was like dead. There was nothing until Yoda, but then Yoda came.
But then you got to do all the stuff at Comic-Con. So that was what, July?
Yeah. I did get to go into Hall H and stuff at Comic-Con, which I've never gotten to do before, which was cool. But being on a panel was just like, you know, and thank you to Neil Halford for making that dream happen. Yeah, it's been a good year. You know, once you sit back and kind of reminisce on how it all went, you know. And the Film Awards this year was at Humphreys by the Bay. It was a really big show. You know, we weren't sure how that was going to go off because it was outdoors and we had to bring in all the set pieces. And the show went very, very well and aired on PBS. And
I was running around changing in and out of outfits, so I have no idea. I'm like, I just know where I am in this moment, and I know what outfit I'm supposed to have on.
Well, that was a whirlwind of a night for you, yeah.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, I was going from being Marty McFly to being me as one of the nominees, and then back to Marty, and it was crazy.
And then you won the big nut.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a good year. I think it's good sometimes to stop and just look back and kind of remind yourself of the good things that happened. Because it is sometimes easy to focus on all the negative. Like, oh, I didn't work for a month and a half. Yeah, but I had like 6 months of working on a docuseries, which that's never happened before. Like, that's pretty incredible. We got to like add to all our gear and stuff because of that show. So, you know, we're more decked out now than we've ever been for shooting stuff going forward. And there's a number of new opportunities that are cropping up, which I actually want to talk to you about offline.
Oh, you guys don't get to hear.
Yeah. Well, there are certain things you don't want to put out there until you know it's actually going to happen. But there are opportunities to pursue going into next year, which I think are exciting.
But yeah, I agree with you. Like, sometimes, like you said, sometimes you focus on the negative, but also sometimes you just get so caught up in everything that you don't have time to relish and note those moments when it's like, oh yeah,
can't see the forest through the trees.
That was kind of awesome, and that happened. So I don't know. We're approaching into the end slide of this year. Getting closer to. It's almost Thanksgiving already. That's insane. But yeah, it's a good time to take stock and reevaluate where we're going and changing directions and forward, onward. Tally ho.
Tally ho, they say. Tally ho. It's Brian. He might be. Sorry, I can't talk right now. So we're at a good point to start wrapping up. But so you're making the leap. Mm-hmm. What is it you anticipate for yourself going into 2019? Like, are you going to be actively pursuing like work in LA? Are you going to be actively pursuing work in San Diego? Like, what is your anticipation? Are you going to be spending a lot of time traveling?
Yes to all of the above. Anybody who wants to hire me, I'm putting feelers out there everywhere. So, I already commute a lot anyway, so there's no problem with going up to LA. But there's plenty of really good work here in San Diego. So, all of it, all of it. I hope to do, I'd love to do some commercial work. And like I said, I'm really interested in doing voiceover work now that I'm starting to dip my toe into that realm. Talking's a lot harder than everybody thinks, actually. So I need to practice the talking. And
everybody thinks that Film Awards voice just came out of me, but I took some time to figure out how to do that one because it's not my normal voice by any means.
Well, and that's one thing. I mean, I know as an actor, I've done this throughout my life, just played with what can my voice do, but I know that I haven't really even started to mine the things that I probably could utilize my voice for. Mostly because, I've come up in a very physical acting sort of technique and things. Mm-hmm. And I've done some voice work, but I haven't played with my voice the same way that I've practiced to see what weird things my body can do.
Right.
So there's that. And, I'm a big advocate of always training as a performer. So there's a couple of classes that I definitely want to jump into now that I'm going to have a little free time. Hopefully not too much free time. But yeah, I want to try and get some more film work in and definitely TV work. All of it. I'd like to do all of it and wherever they'll have me, So.
Well, we tell people all the time on the show, put it out there. Amazing things happen when people put stuff out there on our show. So.
Oh, so what's my thing to put out there? I would like, okay, universe, here we go. I would like to get a guest star spot on a network show.
There it is.
That is my putting it out there for 2019. A guest star spot on a network show.
That's a good goal.
That would be awesome.
That's a very good goal. And we here will be supporting you the whole way. Anything and everything that I can do to help you out with that, I'm your cheerleader in the back.
Thank you, David.
I hope that you will continue as an audience to listen to Whitney's journey on this show as we continue to interview people in their own journeys. And as I continue my journey along as well, although I haven't talked about myself much in a while till today.
But I was asking questions. I was redirecting. There was too much spotlight on me. I'm like, let me flip this thing around.
Yeah, I see how it is. But this is the Intellectual Podcast, and predominantly, I I think the show's about talking to people about their journeys.
Of course.
We talk to entertainers a lot, and you always correct me that we also talk to scientists and politicians and whatever. And it's true. We talk to all sorts of people of all different backgrounds and professions. But in the end, the discussions here are about the journey. The journey that people are on, the journey that they're taking, and the things that inspire them to do it. And I think the unique thing with you and me is we're always on the show, and I think sometimes we forget to talk about our own journey as well. So I'm glad we've had this opportunity to sit down and have an episode, just the two of us, to chat.
Yeah,
I think
it's kind of nice.
We should do it again, on a more kind of regular basis. Just because it's our show and we should put our stuff out there too.
Just check-ins. Well, I guess, so if we're putting stuff out there, so I mentioned earlier in the show that I was shooting a feature film. I'm actually a lead in that feature film. And we will be premiering that mid-December out at the Independent Movie Theater on Coronado.
Oh, nice.
So when I get exact dates, I'll let you guys know. But that'll be coming out really soon, actually.
Awesome.
Quite a quick turnaround. So very excited about that.
And what kind of part are you playing in this film?
Ooh, I am a corporate spy. So I get to play a lot of different roles inside of one role because she has to wear a lot of different hats to manipulate things. So that's a lot of fun, actually. I got to stretch my acting chops a bit. Every scene is kind of a slightly different variation on this character.
And this is a little bit of an extension off of the role that you won your film award for, right?
Kind of. I feel like the idea got sparked off of that, but it's a very different character because the character from the Film Awards was a pretty brutal assassin who liked to kill people. And I'm not gonna say that this person doesn't enjoy killing people, but it's more that spy angle. It's more Machiavellian than stabby. Very
cool. Very cool. Well, I'm very much looking forward to seeing it. And Tony Cox is in it as well.
Tony Cox is in it. Raul Uriola is the director and writer. Uriola film, no S. There's been an ongoing inside joke about it.
Well, and both of them have been on the Intellectual podcast. So, people can go back into the library and take a look at the episodes we've done with them. Raul's a very interesting filmmaker. And actually, it was his productions that brought you to my attention. Oh. I got to thank Raul always for that. Oh,
yeah. The first time that we met that I didn't really remember is at the March of Movies because you asked me about my accent from Golden Age. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that was you because I met you later on. And then you're like, yeah, no, I was there. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I had a very Long Island sort of accent in that, so.
You were very good at it.
Oh, thank you. Well,
that was Golden Age, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we went into massive amounts of detail on the Intellectual podcast with Raul. So, make sure you go back and take a listen to that episode with Raul Uriola, and check out Tony Cox's episode with us as well. And I just thank you all so much for listening to the show, for listening to us and following us in our careers. And, hopefully we continue to inspire and entertain, and that we can continue to do this for a long time to come.
We'll keep you all posted.
And don't forget to check out all the rest of the shows at the Gonna Geek Network at GonnaGeek.com. Everything from video games to comic books to reviews of the CW Arrowverse shows. They've got all sorts of the nerddom covered in our sister programs at Gonna Geek. So make sure you're checking them out on a regular basis. And until next time, you've been listening to the Intellectual Podcast with David
and Whitney.
And we will talk again soon.
Bye.
Hello there, citizens. I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the floaty that will not flush no matter how many times you try in the toilet bowl of crime. I am Darkwing Duck, telling you please, talk hard and enjoy the mindgasm. Whatever the heck that means. After all, you are watching Intellectual Podcast with your ears.